Hello, so this is Christina, and I'm here today to show you how I would draw Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. So I hope you enjoy, and I'm just going to start now. So the first thing I would do when drawing Toothless is start with his head, because it's a very defined shape. It's basically a very flat rectangular shape, but the position I'm having him in is a little more than a 3/4 view, so his face actually looks a little more like a triangle. The picture I'm using for reference is the scene in How to Train Your Dragon 2 where Toothless and Hiccup are fighting right at the beginning of the movie. And Toothless is looking very, very incredulous of what Hiccup is saying. But anyway, so I've gone on to drawing the little, I don't know if these are ears or appendages, but they're very identifiable parts of Toothless's face that you need to have to make it look like Toothless. I used to think these were some sort of ear scale until Toothless hit Hiccup with one of them. So I don't really know about that. Anyway, this is just a basic triangular shape that has been curved on one side, and this is kind of a rectangle with a triangle on the end. So it's not that hard to do any drawing if you have a reference, so long as you start with basic shapes. So now I'm going to move on to the rest of the body, and there's not much space between his head and his body. His neck is kind of short. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of bring this like here and make a curving motion here to the left and bring out his shoulder, which is his shoulder for his wing, not his front leg. So this is kind of an ovular shape, like this, but we're only tracing this side of it. And then we'll come down a little bit more with a little bit of a longer line. And then here is where his wing is. This is the appendage or arm, if you want to call it that, for his wing. So it's actually a little more muscular than I made it, so that's just a curved line up. But honestly, once this is colored, you won't be able to tell. Just because he's a black dragon, so it doesn't show up very much, all the details on him. So now we're going to bring this line up, and it's slightly curved this way, and we're going to curve it over like we had a square here, and we're just going to pull this line off the edge of the square. And here's another place where there's a bump or something that makes the line a little curved that comes down here for his wing. And now, since we have this wing in, and I really like to keep things even, we're going to come over here and start this wing after we get this line correct. So Toothless's head comes down about here. So we want to make this line curve in to kind of imply his neck, which we already mentioned does not show up very well. And then about right here where his wing comes down, his elbow of his wing, if that's what you want to call it, it curves in a little to form his body. And you can't see all that much of it in this clip that I've paused the video at. But this is kind of how it goes. And now we're going to go on to the other wing. Now this wing is just about the same height as this one. And it's really just an oval tacked on the side here. And we're just going to come up around it Draw a little line off of it, shooting off from the edge of the oval. See, here's the oval, here's the line. And then we're going to tuck it, kind of following the curve of the oval, except away and a little more exaggerated, away from his body. Excuse me, towards his body. It's curving away. Okay, so now we want to add in Toothless's forelegs, because those are kind of important when they're visible. So his leg starts right about here and here. So I'm going to make a little curve there around this circle that I just drew, and then a little around this circle. Now this is kind of important because there's the appendages that Hiccup not appendages. Very important because Hiccup attached lots of metal connections for the saddle that he put on Toothless. So we need to get this right so we can put in the leather that's going to be like here and coming up over here a little bit later. So I'm going to bring Toothless's leg down like this. It kind of curves on this side and a little less on this side. And then his paws are very interesting because his feet are very small, but what would be his calf or forearm is very thick compared to this part or his feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to fatten it up a little right around this oval and curve it down like this and just put his little toes right there. So that's how that's going to work. And then this one we're going to do very similarly. We're going to just bend it back a little more to emphasize that there's a little difference, because when things stand, it's not very the same. Like when a person is standing, they'll sometimes lean to the side unless they're very good with their posture and very straight. So now we're going to do another oval that's kind of going in this direction instead of this direction. See how this is kind of like this, and this one's a little more angled. We're just going to do that for variety and making the image look a little nicer. You're going to add the little feet, which are honestly, it's just like a little triangle going off to one side. And you'll put the little toes in later. And now we're going to move on the rest of Toothless. He's very thick up here. And then as we go down here, he gets a little smaller. And to make this drawing easier, we're just going to send his tail towards us so we don't have to deal with it. Because this part of a dragon is very structured, but this is very different. So it's easier if you just send the tail somewhere else, like a lot of people do with hands when they're drawing people. So we're going to send that way, and we're going to connect Toothless's body to his tail, which is actually rather difficult, but you'll get it with some practice. It can be rather difficult. It's not always. So we have this and this. Now we need his back legs, because he's kind of going to be sitting here. So his back legs will come down like, here's his body. Then we're going to put his haunch here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put Toothless's hind legs in. Now his hind legs are much smaller than his front legs, just because it makes him kind of cuter if he's a little streamlined, and that would also help him flying. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this line and give him a very, very short upper leg. See? It's so small and cute. And then we're going to give him a lower leg there. This is going to be very thick up top and smaller as it gets down here. See, we have this oval and kind of more of a circle with little bits coming off, because it's not quite an oval and it's not a circle, so it's somewhere in the middle. And then I'm just going to put his little feet here. But the magic of drawing is artistic license. So this just looks kind of awkward, and I'm not so sure about the accuracy of my rendering. So we're going to add the other leg over here really quickly, like there was an oval here. Just going to stick a little foot on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to change how this wing looks. Now, a lot of people like to just go by how you have an image, but in reality, oftentimes your drawing isn't going to look exactly like you want it to. So it's important to know how to correct what you're trying to do. So we're going to come up here to Toothless's wing that we drew earlier. What we're going to do is we're going to bring it down kind of the same way it is here and have it cover the feet and legs. So it will mostly be covered and we won't have to deal with it. So for this part, we're just going to bring his wing over this way. So it kind of looks like he's flaring his wings a little. And now we're going to add the base of the wing on just this part because the other ones won't show up as much. Maybe one here. But you're going to draw an oval or a circle, and you're just going to trace one side of it. And that is the basic shape of a wing. Okay, so now we're going to work on the head. So for Toothless's head, in this position, it comes out in a kind of straight line, not parallel with the paper, but it dips down a little along the curve that we drew earlier. And here is where we're going to have an eye. And we're only going to see a little bit of the eye. So we're just going to draw a little bit like that. And we're going to curve this out here. It's like a triangle reversed. Okay, so here is the eye. There's a little eyelid there, so we'll just draw a kind of line to fill that in. And then we're going to put the mouth where it goes approximately on his face. And most of his face is above where his mouth is, and his mouth is just a teeny little part of his face. So to do his face, we're going to draw a line where the middle of his face would be if he was looking straight at us. Just this side. So where his nose is going to go, where the middle of his mouth will be. So right here, his mouth is a little farther down than on the edges. So we're going to mark that. And we're just going to come and make a line here that curves towards his mouth. Just like that. And now we're going to just make a little curve that opens to the right. And then we're going to connect it to his jawline. Okay? Now we're going to bring his mouth over this way to make him a happy Toothless. Unlike in the scene, we're going to curl his jaw up just a little bit. And now we're going to put in his other eye, which stops right about here on the page and starts right about here. So his eye is a very, very round eye. So we're going to, but it's still in this kind of football shape. So we're going to put a preliminary eye right here and kind of put his eyelid over top of it. Eyelids in general are higher here and lower on this side, and open farther here and smaller on this side. So that's kind of what the impression we're going to give. And then we're going to put his pupil in. So he's going to be looking off this way. So both of his pupils need to kind of be looking in that general direction. So now we're just going to finish the head. How we're going to do that is just sort of imply the top of his head. This is one plane, and these are different planes. The top of his head is very, very flat. So we're going to give him some of the spikes on his head, just like this. They're just little triangles that are curved to the side. And then we're going to draw these two little bits at the back of his head. And we're going to give him his nostrils. And that is the basic drawing of Toothless. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to put the harness on that Hiccup gave him. So the harness has a metal bit here that goes around his neck. It's just a relatively straight line with a little curve at the edges. And then it comes here, right between the beginning of the muscle here and the top of the leg. So we're going to re-emphasize this line, the top of the muscle, and put a little buckle strap right here for where it'll go, where the metal is, and then we'll put two curved lines that curve opening to the left there, and we're going to connect this line down here and put a little bit of leather over here. And we're going to wrap it so it kind of goes around that muscle, and we're going to put a little strap here between this part of the harness and this part of the harness. Since we changed this wing a little, this one kind of just looks a little wonky, so we want to change it a little and make a curved line. There's more of a straight line here, and then it kind of curves to behind Toothless right there. And we're going to put another line kind of parallel to that, parallel to the line at each point.